My name is Riccardo Sai. I'm here today with Jordan Borg, who is a sustainability and purpose copywriter and communication strategist. So I'm the founder of Storo, and our mission is to reshape the world with images that move people. And we collaborate with clients on all sorts of projects, from advertising campaigns all the way to personal branding photo shoots, with incredibly talented entrepreneurs like Jordan Borg. So Jordan, we recently collaborated on our personal brand photo shoots with you. And I wanted to take this opportunity to really understand a bit more how was the process, the creative process that we went through together, and show some of the photos as well, but also give this opportunity for people to understand a bit more what's the behind the scenes of a photo shoot, because often you see the photos, but how do you get to those beautiful photos? That's what I think is the purpose of this conversation. So, but before we talk about that, Jordan, so why don't you talk a bit more about you and what you do and why you do it?
Sure thing. Okay, so as you introduced me, I am a sustainability and purpose copywriter and communication strategist. And so what that means for me is that I take my skills in predominantly writing and, as I define it, just helping people communicate as clearly and effectively as possible, and applying that towards making the world a better place.
That's great. And we share that vision. So I want to show some of the photos that we did. So we're going to start with just a few, just to get the ball rolling. And so this is one of the photos. Always difficult to choose the photos, the hero photos, isn't it? So that's why I delegated you to choose your favorite 4 photos. I mean, I think we shot probably about 1,000 photos, but yeah. But this is a small selection of the photos. So
Yes.
yeah, so that's it. Back in the studio. So Jordan, one of the things that you mentioned at the beginning when we decided to collaborate on this project was that you were vegan, and for you it was very important that this was a personal branding photo shoot with a vegan approach. So can you tell a bit more about why it was important for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So just for some background on that. So a lot of people in the beginning of the pandemic decided to start moving towards a plant-based kind of way of living, not necessarily fully vegan, but a lot of people started taking up more interest in adopting this way of life. I was one of those people. Prior to that, I had been flexitarian, vegetarian, on and off, just kind of on whims for a very long time. And I took the full plunge to become definitely plant-based in my diet, 100% vegan in my diet at the beginning of the pandemic. And then as, I went along on that journey, I became fully vegan in terms of clothing, products, really just anything that crosses the threshold into my house and into my activities and how I live my life. And so this photo shoot was included in that. It's my approach to my entire life and how I lead it. And so it was very important to me that every aspect of this photo shoot was aligned with that to the best of my ability. So that included, the clothing that I wore, the professional makeup, because I do not know what I'm really doing beyond chapstick and mascara. And so, and Riccardo can attest to that. That was quite the challenge to find a vegan professional makeup service, but we eventually succeeded. And so that was important to me, and Riccardo was incredibly respectful of that and quite interested in it, and we succeeded, I would say.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it was challenging, I must say, but it was the kind of challenge which I think is needed if you want to create some images that truly respect the brand, really, and your brand is based around a certain set of values and principles, and so for me it was challenging, but also a lot of fun as well, because I think challenges are actually fun if you don't see them as obstacles, but as an opportunity to actually create an even better project and outcome then it becomes fun. So it was definitely we had a lot of fun on the day. But why? Just kind of stepping back a bit on the reason of having this brand photo shoots. Why for you it was important to create those images at this particular time of your career?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my journey with freelance copywriting kind of around the same time as the veganism and everything. It was really all during the pandemic that this kind of entered my life. And with that, it's been a learning process. So prior to freelancing, I held multiple in-house marketing and communications positions, mostly around social media, because that was just what was booming at the time. And so this is all very new for me. And this past year has been really a journey of discovery about how that works, the best practices, best methods for how to lead a career as a freelance copywriter. And so I've reached a point in that journey where I need to build a website for my lead generation and also just for my personal brand, as Ricardo mentioned. And a big part of that is the visuals, of course. I'm a words person, not a visuals person. So and the visuals I've been using up until this point were some selfies that I thought kind of did the job. So it was time for something a little bit more professional, for sure.
Yeah. And another thing that I was quite interested in is to understand more about the challenging of taking that decision, and also show your more vulnerable side, because a lot of the things that I notice with my clients when we help them to create those images is that I would say most people say, "Oh, I don't like people taking photos of me," and I never had some decent photos, even if they were professionally made. I'm not really pleased with them because they don't really reflect who I am. So I was just wondering, for you to kind of decide to kind of challenge yourself really, and to expose yourself in front of the camera in such a way. So how did you find that process? Was it difficult? Was it?
No, it wasn't difficult. So the best analogy I can think of is truly, it's like, an appointment that we're not looking forward to at the doctor's. It's like I knew I needed it. I made the appointment and I know it's important. It's just on the day of, it can be a little bit nerve-wracking. And so I know that it's something that's incredibly important, that I'm taking care of myself, but and in this case, taking care of my business and my brand and all of these things. But I'm super nervous, and I'm totally okay to admit a bit awkward in front of the camera. And I'm normally behind a Google Doc, just tapping away. And so it was not a hard decision to make. I was very pleased to get that scheduled, to get that to happen finally. But it was just that I had to work closely with Ricardo to be comfortable in front of the lens.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'll probably show some of the other photos that we did, so because I think it helps to put things in context. So I'll start with these. So let me just go back a bit. Yeah. So more. Yeah. So that's some of the other photos that we did. And yeah, for example, this, going back to the fact that you wanted to have a vegan approach to the photo shoot. This was actually a vegan cafe that we found, in that they were serving vegan food, and that's where we stopped for lunch. And that was a great opportunity, because it was a great little cafe, isn't it? We did quite a few photos, including that cake, no, that biscuit that you really wanted to have, but I didn't let you.
Yeah, definitely for any future clients of Ricardo, when he says we're taking food photography, that does not mean you get to eat the food. You just have to stare at it longingly for about 30 minutes.
Exactly. Just stare at the food. Don't drink. Don't eat. Nothing. Another thing that you were very passionate as well, it was to find some muse where we could take some photos. Why was it important to find locations like that for you? I mean, because I know you really insisted of having like a more how do you say kind of a British element in your photos, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that comes with a big caveat that it's like my Californian interpretation of the British approach to things. So I remember we discussed that during the kind of the initial phase of the creative process, like what do we want these photos to look like? And so, having moved to London now, it's like crazy to think about that. It's been like 2 years now that I've been here. Um, I've seen lots of different areas of London, and there are definitely certain areas that correspond to my style or my personality. And also there's the element of the fact that like I'm working at sustainability, right? So I wanted there to be a bit of a very London element, but also for it to feel natural, like to not feel too urban. So we really wanted to strike a balance of that, and that ultimately ended up being South Kensington area for us. It's just, I think, one of the most beautiful areas in all of London. I love the iron fencing, the white paint, and everything. It's just, for me, it's like super quaint and beautiful. But then the Mews, I think, kind of lend a little bit of that aspect of like not quite fairy tale, but a little bit more like natural kind of a thing, without hitting the nail so literally on the head of like going into a park kind of a thing. So
Yeah, no, I agree. It was quite interesting actually, because that news, we you mentioned that you really liked yellow. Yellow was one of your part of the initial conversation that we had, led to the fact that you really like yellow. So, and it's interesting how you have all these research that you do at the beginning. There was a questionnaire that I shared with you at the beginning, and we just left it there in the background. But while we were there, doing the photos and doing the photos on that Muse, I saw like a yellow chair literally outside someone's house, and I said, "Gordon, let's use that." And so we used that, and you picked two of the photos with you or with you sitting on that chair. And funny enough, also there were some yellow lines on the floor as well. So I like that, because I think for me it's quite important to plan things in advance, but also leaving things to leave a bit of mystery and a sense of adventure when you're taking the photos. That way we can really capture that sense of authenticity and adventure as well, while we're doing the photos. And I think, well, at least that's my style, and I think the photos then becomes more genuine, and they talk to you in a different way. So what do you think of the creative process that we went through? What's your thoughts?
I think that's super cool. I think that I share your vision on that it's good to plan things. It's good to be prepared and to have an idea of generally what you want to accomplish. And I think that also reduces any potential friction in working with, in collaborating as professionals, right? If we're on the same page going into it, but then we both have an open mind to yellow lines and yellow chairs that whatever can pop up on the day. I think that's a really cool creative process, and I respect it a lot.
Mm-hmm. And so now that you have the photos, how much do they reflect your brand story? Because we talked a lot about that. So now I know it might be a bit difficult for you, because you are your personal brand, but also you're a strategist, a communication strategist. So I'm just interested, now that you see yourself on the images. So what kind of your brand story can tell those images?
Yeah, sure. I think that they capture who I am very, very well. Like just from practical aspects of the pictures, right? Like the fact that there's a little bit of makeup, but it's not overdone to the point where it doesn't look like me anymore. Those are clothes that I did not buy just for the photo shoot. I am wearing those all the time. So visually, it represents who I am, like physically and all of that. But in terms of my story, I think if you want to kind of dig into that a little bit, it totally hits the nail on the head, because it's like, that's me. Like, I'm from California, but I moved to Europe in 2017. I'm to France, and I lived there for a couple years, met my husband, we moved over here. And so me kind of like for lack of a better word, like frolicking around South Kensington, taking pictures, in a variety of locations is like, that's me. That's like it's kind of a Sunday for me, going into town and just exploring and seeing what things are like. They say that people that live in major capitals of places in the world sometimes don't even visit the main attractions where they live. And that's something that, being an expat for the last 5 years, I've been so fortunate to do that, because it's like, when I have time, I go and check things out. I go explore, I grab a coffee and I walk around until I finish my coffee, then take the public transportation back. And I really think that captures that. And in terms of communicating what I want to achieve with my brand, right, which is that underlying factor of making the world a better place, I guess that I would say that the fact that captures like the authenticity of who I am would probably speak to how important that element is to me in my writing process, is communicating things honestly and authentically for my clients.
Yeah, no, beautiful. And I think you're touching on something that is that for me is very important, which is really building an experience. Because for me, a brand photo shoot is not just the final images that you see, which of course it is important, and I'm glad that you're pleased with, with the images. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't be here. But what I think is very interesting is that it has to feel like so natural that it almost feel like a couple of friends walking on holiday and exploring the city together. So that's always where I'm coming from, because that way people are more relaxed, I find. So I tend to use only natural lighting, which is good for the environment as well. I travel by public transport, and for me it's quite important to use that kind of approach, which is very fluid, I would say. As we said before, preparation, but then on the day, really kind of having fun, and just a lot of walking as well. And it's incredible, because when you walk together, when you kind of build that experience, and there's nothing more magical than walking, I think, for connecting heart to heart with people. I think in doing that, that's where the magic somehow translates into the images, rather than being in a studio. I mean, I do photo shoots in studio as well, and they are beautiful as well. But if I had to choose, I prefer a photo shoot that is outdoor, because it's an experience. It's a more meaningful experience, in my opinion. So Jordan, we coming to the end of this beautiful conversation. Hopefully people will understand a bit more about the power of images to really communicate a personal brand. I'm really curious now. So what are you going to do with these images? How are they going to help you to achieve your goals? And what's next for Jordan?
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned earlier, the main use of the images is going to be for my website that I'm currently building. I think I've said I'm currently building my website for the last 3 months. So it's definitely a work in progress. But that's going to be the main application of photos. But also I hope to use them, as I network and build more opportunities for my brand and for my copywriting business. For example, last year I got invited to kind of give like professional advice in copywriting at a local summit called the WHIP, very, very cool event regarding sustainability. And, they asked for some professional photos of me, and I sent them my tried and true selfie, and realized that, this is kind of the moment where it'd be so cool to have a variety of options of professional images that would just really like make everything come together so much better. And so definitely I would love to have more opportunities like that. That was a super cool event, and I would really love to do something, some more similar events like that this year and in the coming years. And I guess what's next for me is really just kind of continuing this journey of discovery in terms of freelancing, in terms of copywriting, and also in terms of sustainability, I've been thinking actually of potentially going back to school. I've got my bachelor's degree from NYU, and I'm quite keen on the idea of maybe going back for either sustainability or possibly writing. I haven't quite decided yet, but I think that's a little bit more down the line. So we'll see what the future holds. But this year, definitely growing the business, building that website, and continuing hopefully to have an impact. Hopefully.
That's exciting, Jordan. So thank you again for, trusting me in this process, and thank you also for sharing with us your story. And good luck with everything. Okay.
Thank you. We'll
Thank
talk
you.
soon.
Thank you, everybody, for